Hello, we are the Hakam team, and let us show you how our story was made. Hakam is a short movie based on the cycle of life. It shows a young man's coming of age in a tribal culture which practices slashing and burning rituals.
For the Native American Apache tribe, slashing and burning is linked to agriculture, but it's also full of spiritual significance. The inspiration for our story was the driving force of the fire, which plays a major role in the revival of the forest.
My main challenge was to develop an artistic direction with an highly graphic universe that feels real. I started with the Awanichi's close ties to the flora of their region.
To create the environment, we needed to do a lot of graphical research on rocks, plants, trees, and so on. We created shapes in 3D that were adapted to the animation layout. These shapes were also useful for masking during the painting phase. This is the transition from 3D to 2D.
Designing the characters and the fire spirits was challenging because they had to fit the graphic interpretation of the environments. When working on the character designs, I explored different shapes and silhouettes to find the most efficient ones. My goal was to use oversimplified features to minimize the differences between the 2D paintings and the 3D models. I developed a look dev in compositing, which removed the 3D-looking elements to stay away from traditional CG images and attain a brushed aspect. Since the base color was the main focus, I painted the textures in a traditional way with visible strokes and several layers of color variations.
During Hakam's journey, we adapted the animation to the environment. For example, his movements are confident and calm as he crosses a peaceful, wide, open field.
But later, during the chase scene through the forest, the main character's movements are explosive, as the trees are shown at sharp angle and on a huge scale.
The tricky part was maintaining uniformity among the different animators. For this, we created a reference run cycle to help define the timing, posing, and amplitudes of the run.
The stag represents the flames consuming the forest, so we made it fiery and impetuous. His massive antlers are further amplified by the fire effect. In order to avoid huge spacing on screen, we needed to animate his neck and head as little as needed. This also maintains his noble aspect.
For his behavior, we also looked at bulls, pawing the earth and charging, but we kept the grace of the deer with bounding lips and a proud stance.
We also used mocap to gain time with a technique that was new to us. But the data that I recovered from the set was not what I expected, and I realized that a lot of polish was needed. We solved this issue by switching mocap shots into some keyframe shots.
For the rigging, I created new deformers so that the animators could conform as much as possible to the 2D style. I also added animator-friendly attributes, like hand posing for example, to help the process of animation. I had to maintain the sharp graphic style of the character through the skinning using the creases of the topology as markers.
The fire is the star of our film. It really drives our story. So it was really important that it seemed alive, magical, natural, and menacing all at once. I collaborated with Samuel, the character designer, to make the fire spirit impressive by creating a stylized fire look.
My only concern for the fire spirit was to give to his features grace and nobility. In order to help Hugo make the fire, I created painted masks to isolate each area of his body.
Because the fire was everywhere, I had to make the setup that would automatically apply to every shot when there was a wildfire. With that, I gained a significant amount of time. I used the power simulation as the base for the color and mixed it with other variations in line with the art direction.
To improve the workflow between 2D and 3D software, I developed some tools for the team. The bridge allowed us to export 3D objects from Maya into 2D layers for Photoshop. This also let us export 2D layers from Photoshop into 3D objects in Houdini, all textured and ready for the simulation.
All through the film, smart solutions helped us achieve our artistic goals while gaining efficiency and time. For example, we rendered a maximum of AOVs thanks to Houdini and the 3D layout. We also created hand-machine-lighting AOVs on Photoshop. We used the crypto mat to help separate and adjust grade every element shot by shot. The aim was to create our final image as close as possible to the concept and mood board. I added some lens effects and some flickering to give vibrancy and to unify all layers without destroying any shade. The 3D part needed to avoid being flattened by the 2D parts and vice versa.
Thank you! We hope you enjoyed discovering our universe.